Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, we're back.
We're back.
Yep.
Hi friends, I'm Allison Gwynn.
I'm Amelia Cormack.
And this is Some Dark Holler.
I'd rather be in some dark holler where the sun refused to shine than for you to be another man's woman, never on earth to call you mine.
Hi friends.
Hi, friends.
So we have had an amazing adventure.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
Yes. And come with me, if you will, on a strange journey. Now we've had a hiatus, if you've not noticed.
Yes.
And but a necessary one. And my lovely friend Amelia would like to speak about what happened to her.
Yeah.
And I would like to just be a fly on the wall.
Yeah, so we had a little break. I just want to first up put right up the top here, we're going to be discussing some issues around mental health. And some things to do with suicidal ideation. So if that's going to be triggering for you,
See you next episode.
Bow out now. We're going to do something a little bit different. I wanted to share with you all, and considering this is called Some Dark Holler, and boy, she was hollering from some dark places, let me tell you. So we just wanted to share with you why we were on hiatus, which is to do with me. So my daughter was born in February.
And she's beautiful and smart.
Yeah, and she's truly the best. Like, truly just the easiest child in the world. We are so lucky. Feeding, sleeping, smiling, laughing.
She
doing
really
all the
is
things.
the best.
But the first 5 weeks of her life were some of the most blissful moments of my life. We recorded an episode.
I know.
Which was really exciting. No, that was in between. And I felt like I had been made whole, that there was a piece of the puzzle that was missing, and that motherhood, and the people that know me really well know that I'm a very maternal person. I've been a mum to a lot of people in my life.
Yours truly included.
Stop it, friend. So I was super happy. And then the 6-week mark, which is where there's a significant hormone dip for post-birth, I started experiencing some anxiety-induced insomnia, which was super fun, like maybe 1 or 2 hours of sleep.
Oh, that's
Over
great.
several nights. Yeah.
And everyone is like, when you have a baby, they're like, say goodbye to sleep. But it was different for you.
No, she was sleeping.
She was fine.
She was fine.
The baby's great.
I was not. That was the thing. And I was like, why am I feeling anxious? I have this perfect child who eats and sleeps and who's feeding fine, all of the things. So why am I struggling with this? Anyway, my amazing therapist kind of helped me through it, and we were like, well, we don't think we need medication. And postpartum depression was something that I was kind of on the lookout, because I was because I have a history of anxiety, as I think we've talked about on here.
Same.
Yeah. As do a lot of us.
Anxious brethren and sistren and they then.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And there's also a history of mental health issues in my family. So it was something that we were kind of on the lookout, but I was some baby blues.
Right.
But we got through it. We agreed. We kind of sorted out what was going on. And like I said, we didn't think medication was necessary. And then at the beginning of May, it got really bad, and there are a couple of contributing factors. But before I delve into that story, I just want to share with you some information. And
share with me too.
Yes, yeah. And if any of you out there are experiencing this, please know there is help available. There are some amazing resources out there. I can recommend some things, and I'll put some links up at the end in the notes.
We're here to help.
Yeah. So a lot of people know it as postnatal or postpartum depression, but that's just one form. They're actually called, here in the States, I don't know if it's the same in Australia, but they're called PMADs, which stands for Perinatal Mood and Anxiety Disorders. And it's that's the label for a cluster of conditions that can occur during pregnancy or in the postpartum period, and it's the most common complication of pregnancy.
Wow.
So approximately 1 in 7 women will experience, or I should say 1 in 7 birthing people will experience more serious depression and or anxiety during pregnancy or postpartum.
1 in 7.
Yeah. Recent estimates suggest that 7 out of 10 women hide or downplay their symptoms. Ugh. And the studies are beginning to show that 1 in 10 male partners can also develop symptoms.
Of course.
So and we talked about a little bit off mic, in generations past, before this was understood. I mean, we still don't understand who is going to get it, who is not. Obviously, there are certain risk factors that set the stage. There's genetic, also history of family history of depression, anxiety, or previous disorders, biological changes in bodies such as hormone shifts,
motherhood,
psychological ways of thinking and feeling, perfectionist, difficulty with uncertainty or change, and environmental. So experiences or external factors like traumatic or premature birth, prolonged sleep disruption, breastfeeding difficulties, recent loss, history of trauma loss. So I had all of those.
I was like, basically all. she's
all
like,
the things.
Bingo. I win.
Yeah.
Oh, babe.
So they're not the baby blues, which are experienced by as many as 80% of new mothers.
80%.
Symptoms usually start 1 to 3 days postpartum and can last for up to 2 to 4 weeks, and most commonly involve sadness, tearfulness, irritability, and exhaustion. Symptoms are mild and resolve in time. So that's the baby blues. This is information also from the Motherhood Center, which I will talk about more when we get to that point in the story. Beginning of May, I should also say at the 6-week mark, like I'd had all these family visiting, and then they had all left.
Oh, great.
And it was just George and I. The nearest family is 3.5 hours away. I was like, oh God. I had my first audition back in person for something that was very difficult and that I was nervous about, singing 8 shows a week.
Yeah.
My unemployment ran out.
Oh God.
Which that for me, and it's interesting, I was talking to my mum a lot about this. When you're someone who's made your own living your whole life, and then all of a sudden you're in this place where you can't.
Right.
For me, it was absolutely debilitating because I'm not good at relying on other people.
Right.
As people who know me well will know I am terrible at accepting help.
It's all right.
And post-baby is absolutely the ultimate in you need help. So
yeah.
It took me so long. Roger would be like, can you just let me help you? Like, but what do you mean?
Oh, Roger.
I know. Truly, my husband is a superhero, as you will hear at the end of the story.
Is.
He's just extraordinary.
As are you, though.
Oh, you are too, friend.
No. But she is. Continue. Sorry.
So the insomnia came back, and I just was feeling super, super anxious. And so I spoke to the therapist and we went, okay, I think it's time for some medication.
Right.
I'd also gotten in touch with a postpartum support group, which was amazing. But I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to trigger the women in the group, and I don't want to bring them down. So it's funny because my therapist and I were talking, and we're like, at the top, we were like, I didn't feel like I needed it. I was like, oh, you know, things are great. And then by the end, I actually missed the last 2 sessions. It was a 6-week thing.
Yeah.
And I missed the last 2 sessions because I just was like, no, I can't. I don't want to bring other people down.
I think it's funny that you were worried about other people more than yourself. That's you though.
It is for me. I just felt so keenly, and when we get to that point in the story, but watching Roger and my mom and seeing the impact that I was having on them was really hard to not feel responsible for them and for that. But we'll get to that.
So hard.
Yeah. So I got onto Headway.
What's Headway?
Headway.com is a place where you can find mental health professionals really quickly. So I was able to find a nurse practitioner to prescribe me some meds.
Great.
Like the next day I had a so headway.com.
Headway.com.
Yeah, I know. If they want to give
if you want to sponsor us, it's fine.
Sling us some bucks. And so I started on I think I started on Zoloft because I was breastfeeding at the time. Mm-hmm. Zoloft and something to help me sleep. I think it was Sonata. But my anxiety was blasting right through those sleeping tablets.
Wow, that's amazing.
So then I was prescribed something strong. I was prescribed Ambien, but even then, eventually, Ambien would give me like 2 or 3 hours of sleep, and then I would get like an hour at a time waking up all the time.
Wow.
Because the thing is with Ambien that I didn't realize that people build up a tolerance. You're not supposed to take it. It's not supposed to be an everyday med.
Oh.
So you can build up a tolerance to it, and then it doesn't work as well.
Interesting.
So that's why Ambien is usually prescribed for just like small patches, but not to be taken every day. So where was I? Yes. So we had the nurse practitioner, we had all of that. And then I was at a point where, you know, again, still not sleeping. I was calling my family in Australia, I was talking to my dad, and I was like, this anxiety is too much. He's like, you need to get something for it. So then I was put on, I had to make a decision between my mental health and breastfeeding. Yeah. Because I was prescribed something. I was prescribed Xanax and to help calm the anxiety. But that was tough. That was like I'm choosing between myself and the baby. And the other thing that happens is when you stop breastfeeding, there's another massive hormone shift.
This is just, sometimes it's hard to be a mother. Or a parent. Oh God, girl. Yeah. So, but, you know, like my therapist says, you have to put your air mask on before you can assist others.
100% true.
So.
And you know, she'd gotten the first 3 months, and while there are times when I miss breastfeeding, as there's a saying that says fed is best. Yeah. Again, our angelic child just took the bottle. Just like a champ. So took the formula, just like as if she'd had it. And she had it when she first came out of the hospital. When she was in hospital for 2 extra days because her blood sugar had dropped. And it's funny talking about that I'd had a birth trauma, and I didn't even realize it because the birth had gone really well. Yeah. But I went home without my baby 24 hours after I'd had her, and she stayed in the hospital.
That's awful. Yeah,
which
hard.
I was like, oh yeah, that's really traumatic. So when we look back at those factors, we got family history, we got the hormone shifts, we got the recent trauma. Check.
Hormone surges. Check.
Yeah.
You just moved. Well, recently.
No,
Have you been here a year?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We've been here a year right now.
Time flies.
But you're right. So that was that. And then, so where am I up to? Okay. So we're still, yes. So I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, I need you. And
Mom in Australia.
Yeah, Mom in Australia, yeah. And she hopped on a plane and came right out, which was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And I got to a point and I'm like, okay, this, whatever combination of this therapist and this psychiatrist for some reason is not working. I will say I've been with my therapist for 7 years. So, and to her credit, God bless her, she was very much about absolutely get a second opinion. And a friend of mine mentioned the Motherhood Center, that she had a really good experience there. And so I was like, okay, great. So I spoke to my therapist about that, and she said, yes, absolutely, this looks like a fantastic program. I could take my daughter in, and it was 5 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's a commitment.
Yeah, and I had to go in. I think there was something with the insurance where I had to go in person. So we were driving into the city. So I go to the Motherhood Center, which their model is group therapy, which is amazing. There's they have a psychiatrist and a psychologist there on hand, and they do really, really amazing work. The problem was that I was too unreachable even by then.
Oh, honey.
My thoughts were so circular. I'm preempting myself. A really fun thing happened in the lead up to this, is that I woke up one morning and went, I can't be a mum. I can't do it.
Oh.
It was so huge, the idea of being a mum, that my brain shut down to it, basically.
And you wanted it for a long time.
Exactly.
And you finally feel whole, like you said, and complete. So
yeah,
it's a big thing.
And I am someone who loves an instruction manual. So yeah, I often define my creativity by, I'm like, Lego. Lego is my absolute definition of my creativity.
Yes.
It's like, here are the instructions. Let me make you exactly what it is on the box. Mm-hmm. And I am thrilled. It's like the adult coloring books. Those ones that are like mandalas freak me out. Just give me a simple Disney coloring book and I'm super happy.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's why I'm an actor, because I'm like, give me a script to follow. But of course, with motherhood... Ain't no script.
There's nothing.
And there's a lot of...
I mean, books.
There's a lot.
Too much.
Yeah. And also, I'm someone that's like, and just exploring it in the program I'm in at the moment, and the idea of shoulds. Shoulds are so toxic. But in my brain, I was like, I'm not playing with her right. I'm not doing this right. I'm not doing that right. I'm looking at other mums who are functioning with their kids, to my mind, and I'm not functioning. And
you were worried about...
I was worried about her safety, not that I would ever do anything to her. And which is there are intrusive thoughts of all kinds that happen when you have these mood disorders that are really awful. Yeah. It doesn't ever mean that you're going to act on them, but it's really awful. The images that flash across your mind unbidden, because that's the nature of intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
Someone once said to me, it's like it's something that's being dropped on your head. An intrusive thought is something that's being dropped on your head from out of the blue. It's not coming from within you.
Wow.
But I felt like I was so distracted, and and I likened it to, it's funny, I said to Rog later, that I felt like a werewolf, because it was like when the Xanax was in, I was lucid and rational and great, and it was that thing of like, as Buffy the Vampire Slayer people,
so good friend Buffy says,
I felt like Seth Green. I felt like I'm sorry for what I'm going to do. Like, I'm sorry for what I'm going to be in the morning, because the mornings are always the worst.
Yeah.
because I would feel the Xanax wearing off, and it's like, here it comes.
Which also just adds more anxiety too.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So I was going into the Motherhood Center and sitting in groups, and you know, group therapy is great and works for a lot of people, but I think it would have worked for me if I'd gone now, and the program I'm in now, you know, but that it's just, I'm sitting there spiraling inside my head.
No, honey.
Yeah. The medication that the problem with SSRI medications is that they take a long time to kick in.
Yep.
And so I'm on this medication that hasn't kicked in yet, and I'm just getting worse and worse and worse. And even though we all think this is the solution, to be going in every day became torturous, because I knew I was just going to sit there and my daughter was going to be taken care of by other people, because I didn't want other mums to see me not coping with her, and it just was this like vicious circle.
Oh, honey.
And then a couple of days, I was there a week total, and towards the end there started to be some suicidal ideation, which is, you know,
for those of you that don't know, suicidal ideation is just thinking about the possibility of suicide, not really acting on it in any way, but the thought is there.
Yeah. And it became, and also I will say, I had been kind of talking about going to hospital, like fearing going to hospital, but also feeling like I needed to go to hospital for a while. And it was suicide, the Motherhood Center, or hospital as the three options. And I remember my therapist at the Motherhood Center saying, what are your feelings on each of these options? And I was like, 30%. She said, it's an even split. I said, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we then had, because I didn't want to do it, but I spoke about it to my therapist. We had a family meeting, and with my mum and my husband, and that, admitting that I had those thoughts and had a plan, was one of the worst moments of my life. I was so ashamed and embarrassed, and it was like, people are mums every day. People are, you know, why am I so, that's the phrase, it was like, why am I so special? And the worst part about this was as well, I don't know for you, but for me, it's always my own voice in my head. It's not some nasty other voice. It's my own voice.
For me, when I have negative thoughts about myself, I know intellectually it's not the truth, but the voice does sound like me, and it also says I'm who you really are. Everything else that you try to do is not real. I am who you really are. And that's scary. And intellectually, I know that's not true, but it feels true.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like, and I felt so weak because I couldn't control my thoughts. And they kept trying to give me coping skills. And I was like, but these last for 2 seconds, and then I'm back in. And for me, it was a black tornado was the image that I had of what it was. First of all, where I'd feel the anxiety, I tell my dad it was like a black tree in the center of my chest, with spreading out its limbs spreading out into my breasts and across my shoulders. Wow. That's what it felt like. And then the voice itself was like a black tornado. It was just whirling. And I figured out, since now with time and space, that it's, I think it's not my 13-year-old self, but it's like my 15 to 16-year-old self who's really scared about this huge responsibility. And I actually just want to give her a big hug, because all those things were fear, and she in her fucked up way was trying to protect me, because it was like, this is too scary, so we're going to shut your brain down. And but you'll laugh at this. I see her in like knee-high socks and a pleated skirt, like she's full. I call her emo Amelia Hyde. And I'm Amelia Jekyll, so Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But I say she's not scary; she's scared.
Yes.
So that was who was at the driving wheel. And one of the things they said in my new program, which I thought was really interesting, is that often a suicide attempt is a way of getting control, or taking control in, which is really interesting. And there was another thing that they said, which was much better than put better. I can't remember what it is. 'Cause meds. But yes, so eventually it did get to a point where I made a very, what I like to call a very pathetic attempt, but because it wasn't real. It was more of a cry for help than anything. But I did the night before, or it was in my head, even though I didn't know how. It was like I was saying goodbye, but even though I didn't know how I was going to do it.
Darling.
Yeah. And like I said, I know this is a lot for people. Tune out if you want, but I want to be as honest with all of you as possible.
And you're being really brave, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, friend. Well, it's important to talk about.
It is.
And there was I'd given my husband all my meds, because that would have been my original plan. So he was in charge of all the meds. But there was a little bottle of Ambien in my bedside table, which I'd kind of forgotten about. I think this is funny. This is the way my humor works. But I'd had this image flash before my eyes. So talk about intrusive thoughts of the carving knife in the kitchen. Not that that's the funny part, but I put the point to my wrist and then went, owie, it's too hurty.
It's too hurty.
I did like 3 times. I didn't even break the skin. It was just like, no, that's
honey,
too painful.
No,
not that
Lord.
way. But then there was a choice between taking just my regular sleeping tablets and then the Ambien, but there wasn't enough. It was like, I don't want them to have to look after me in a coma. So I made the decision very specifically to just take the meds that were my sleeping. And I woke up the next morning and everything was still there. It was all swirling and awful. And I just was, I can't go back. So I got my phone and I walked out, and I was walking down the street bare feet in my pajamas to go to the hospital with my phone. And my husband called me and he's like, where are you? And I said, I'm going to I'm outside, I'm going to hospital. He's like, come back in the house. So I did. This is the other thing. At every turn, I'm making the decision to go on. Like, it's very clear that it's not. So I come back in the house, and he's like, call the warm line, which is the crisis line for the Motherhood Center. And so I spoke to one of their people on the phone, and I told them everything that happened. Because again, subconsciously, I'm really trying to get help, and I want to go on. So we drive in to go take me to the session that day. And now in times past, I had tried to jump out of the car, like I had gone to try to jump out of the car.
Ugh.
So my poor husband at one point I got my seatbelt, he held my hand down onto the seatbelt thing. And then we get a call as we're nearing the Motherhood Center, and they're like, where are you? I said, we're almost there. They're like, okay, come into the office. We want to have a chat with you once you get here. So I was like, okay. And I knew then, I was like, I'm going to hospital. Oh, also, I did a walk. My mum had been walking with me along the riverfront, and multiple times the last time we walked, she had her arm around my waist because I kept trying to run away. And halfway through the walk, I realized, I was like, you've done it now. You're going to hospital. They'll definitely put you in hospital now. And so I was just kind of resigned. We get to the Motherhood Center and we have a meeting, and they said, we're scared for your safety, so we've called an ambulance. And I lost it. I was like, no,
ambulance is dramatic.
No. Yeah. No, don't, please don't. Because I was just had this image of Roger and our daughter and him having to work and take care of us. I was like, he's going to lose his job because, you know, he's not going to be able to take care of it's, you know, the whole disaster was playing out in front of my face. Anyway, so they put me on a stretcher.
Wow.
And I said, please, can I just walk out on my own?
Right.
And they said, no, you have to go, by law, you have to go on the stretcher. So I'm like strapped down onto this stretcher. And I'd said to them, can you please not let anyone from my group see me. And they said, we'll tell everyone to stay in the room, we'll close the doors. You know, don't worry everyone, this has a happy ending. And so my mum rode in the ambulance with me. And I was sobbing as I got taken out of there. It's just like, my baby, this was the thing, like, in my own mind, I'm such a terrible mother, but that's like my baby girl.
Well,
so,
it's both.
So my mom rode in the ambulance with me, and I have to tell you, the relief that flooded my mom talks about this. She said, you came back. I saw you come back because something had changed. Because I'd been living in this loop.
Well, the fear of the hospital, right?
Yeah. And now I was like, well, this is it. And the relief that flooded through me, I was like, this is the solution. Because at every turn, I had been looking for a solution.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because they say, you know, this many women don't seek help. I was seeking help. I just wasn't finding it, and not through lack of trying. I don't, you know, this is no one's fault, right. And there is no blame in this.
You didn't want to do the most extreme thing.
No, I didn't.
The most extreme form of help.
Yeah. No, exactly. That was kind of in my head as a last resort. So we're riding the ambulance, and I felt lucid. I felt elated. I actually sang, because I hadn't been singing. I've been trying to play my instruments for distraction, but it hadn't been really working. Mm-hmm. And I sang I Miss the Mountains from Next to Normal. Oh. That show would come to haunt me.
Oh, my word.
Would come to haunt me when you find out where I end up. Oh, I feel like I'm going back next time. No, so we get to the hospital, and I'm like chatty and great. I was like, I'm chatting with them. We're in triage. I'm like, here's the thing. And then I get put, and Roger had come with the baby behind, and he and my mum were waiting outside once I got into their kind of psych emergency area where I was interviewed and all that stuff for the intake. But I was feeling great. I was like, this is going to be great. This is good. We're going to get the right meds. And then the signing of the voluntary admission form came, and I was like, oh God, what am I doing? Oh God. And the reality of what I'd done kind of set in. And so I signed that form with tears in my eyes, and the guy's like, I know it's hard. Here's some Ativan to calm you down. I was like, wow. Okay, great. Anyway,
so what I take for auditions, by the way.
Listen, it's a lovely
half.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, it works.
And it lasts longer than Xanax.
Yes.
So that's for anyway. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden I'm like, are we gonna, by saying the drug names? Are we gonna?
I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
I mean,
just like insert generic medication here.
Lorazepam. I'm on generics because I can't afford the.
100%. Always the generic. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I'm not a brand bitch. I don't need.
Are you bougie like that?
Imagine. My form of bougie comes in my medication.
My medication, only the brand names for me.
Anyway,
that was a small palate cleanser, friends. Just just a little cheerful refresher.
I know, exactly.
Anyway.
So then I get up to so they're like, we're gonna put you in the geriatric ward because
what?
So they put the good quiet ones in the geriatric ward. We don't want you in with all the much louder ones.
Louder, more expressive people.
Yes, the wilder ones. I can put it that way.
Yes.
So that's where I went. And I went to hospital and went into the psych ward.
Wow. Friend.
And it was a very interesting experience. I'd had someone who was with me who was like, oh, you don't want to end up there. I'm going to skip to the end.
Wait, who said this? That you don't want to end up there?
Just a friend. Like someone had said, someone who had experience was like, oh, you don't want to end up at hospital because it's not it's not an easy place to be.
Right, of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not.
And I'm going to kind of jump the shark a little bit and say, who knew that the place that I had been fearing would actually be the place where I would finally get what I was looking for. So I was in the psych ward in blue pajamas, not being able to go outside, no music, no music, electronics,
and no electronics. That's the worst.
There were phones that we could use. It was just 2 corridors with one in between, which is the nurse's station. There were 3 group activity things a day. But that's pretty much it. It was, and there was one patient that was in there who was a young girl who they had to sedate in the mornings because she would scream and cry about let me out of here and swearing and all that kind of thing. There was another woman who would come up to me and just would only say how miserable she was and how much she wanted to be me, which was interesting. But I will shout out my roommate, who was this 89-year-old woman who was absolutely hilarious. And
I mean, I don't know her name, but in my head she's Agnes.
Yeah.
Shout out to Agnes.
Let's call her Sherilyn. Sherilyn.
Ooh, fancy.
She was just, she had her own issues. She was slowly losing touch with reality, but God, we had such a great time. She was also quite incontinent, so they would wake her in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and so that was kind of frustrating when you're trying to sleep, but you're already having trouble sleeping because there's like, if you're like me and you listen to stuff to go to sleep, and you can't listen to stuff to go to sleep.
Bob's Burgers for
me. In the early days, I would walk along singing scores of show tunes to myself to try but I did do 15 minutes of yoga a day in the window.
Wow.
Yeah, just to keep, because the other thing that's interesting in there is there's nothing to distract you at all. And the thing that sometimes an anxious person needs a distraction sometimes. And so
that's my coping mechanism. Just distract me from what's bothering me all the time.
Well, you're in this place where there's no distraction, and that it's like I felt I understood why. Yeah. But it's tough. It's really tough. And especially, but so anyway, so I had been diagnosed, which I didn't understand was a thing. There is postpartum OCD, which is what I had. Postpartum depression and postpartum OCD were my diagnosis. And I have the obsessiveness. I don't really have compulsions, but it's just my thoughts. I cannot control them.
Right.
And so that was my diagnosis at the Motherhood Center, and then at the hospital they kind of just general postpartum depression, but they put me on lithium, and I don't know which medication it was that was effective, but it feels like it was the lithium because when I tell you there was this one day where, and lithium is much quicker, so it's 2 to 3 days for it to reach a level in your blood for it to be effective. When I felt it and it went quiet in my head for the first time in my life, it was, I cannot explain for someone who's had a voice in their head their whole life, it just was the most enormous sense of relief.
Wow.
Now we had to work out my dosage, so I still had a really rough day in the middle, which is when you came to visit me on that day with my dad.
Hello.
What was that like?
You know, all I have are movies to go by.
Yeah.
You know, like, and so I was pleasantly surprised. The bendy pencil was weird. When you have to sign in,
yep,
they give you a pencil that's made out of rubber.
Yep.
For obvious reasons. So that I was like, oh, okay. The pajamas were cool. I kind of want some. But yes, I didn't want to do anything to make you obsess more.
You were one.
I didn't know any. I still didn't. Right now, I'm finding out all the tea is being spilled into my mouth right now. And so I didn't want to. You know, my natural instinct was to be like, tell me everything. But you just said you wanted a distraction, so I was saying anything I could think of. But I think I once said that Louis Armstrong was addicted to laxatives.
Yes, you did. You did.
just reaching. But you know, it's important to know, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, it was. I just wanted to help.
Yeah. And it was interesting because one friend had tried to come visit and I'd canceled her visit because I just was like, I can't. It was so shameful for me, for people that weren't my family, to see me in this state, because I just felt like I was talking in circles, and I was so, but I didn't cancel that day. And I will also say my husband and father came to visit me every day, my dad twice a day. I would sit when I was, I could tell when the lithium was there and it was working, and we'd play dominoes, and it was just really fun. And my dad has been through his own journey, which I won't go into in any detail on because that's his story to tell, but
her dad's awesome.
He's pretty good. Both of my parents are truly extraordinary.
Yeah, I wish I had met your mom. I was at Auto Harp, what I call Auto Harp camp.
It was amazing. And you were sending me, people, that's the thing, people were checking in with me and I just wasn't responding.
But the thing that I regret is because I don't trust Facebook because I'm an old person. But maybe, I don't know. But Facebook Messenger's been sending me weird, when people just go, hi.
Yeah.
Or things like that. Your mom reached out to me via Facebook Messenger and just said, hi, I'm Amelia's mom, but she just said hi first,
right?
And I was like, oh, this is a bot or whatever. But I went back and she goes, hi, this is Amelia's mom. Left some dark holler, and she said just reaching out to you on here. But that's all she said, and I was like, okay, cool. And then I think she tried to reach out on Instagram while I was at Auto Harp camp, and she said, I'm just trying to get a group of Amelia's friends together, and I thought she was trying to surprise you or something because I'm a dope.
No, but that would be a logical conclusion. You're not going to think, oh, I'm in the hospital.
And I was like, hey, I just responded hey, hope everything's okay. I'm at this thing where I'm.
And you sent me a video of Waltzing Matilda.
Yeah, guys saying Waltzing Matilda, and so I didn't think anything of it. And then she didn't respond either. And then when I got back, I got a text message from your dad.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, what?
Yeah. no, it was interesting because I'd had a good day. I'd had it, the lithium had been effective, but then it wasn't at the highest dose. And I had a chat with, they had an amazing psychology intern who acted as kind of a therapist for people on the ward. And I'd had an amazing chat with her where I realized something. And then we had a group session, but it triggered something. And so that day I just totally spiraled, and all the thoughts came back. And alongside that, once I was in the hospital, I'm never going to get out of here. I'm going to have ECT. Now, ECT, a lot of people have had a good experience with it. So I'm just going to put that out there. It isn't one flew over the cuckoo's nest, crazy, torturous. It can be very beneficial for people.
Yeah.
So I just want to put that out there. But it, I had just had someone in my family that had it, and it was slightly scary to me.
Of course.
But it was, they're never going to let me out of here. All this kind of stuff. It's just so
stigmatized in, you know, American Horror Story Asylum.
Yeah, exactly.
And, that's all you hear is scary stories, and you don't hear good stories.
Yeah.
Or Girl Interrupted, or,
Yeah. I was thinking, that was the other one I was thinking of, was Girl Interrupted.
I would think of Girl Interrupted all the time, yes.
But Girl Interrupted is interesting because...
it works if you work it kind of thing.
Well, exactly. And this is exactly the same. Like, it's still true. Like, I was very fortunate that the medication worked. And so basically, after that really dark day when Alison came to visit me, we upped the dose, and since then, I've been better than I've ever been in my entire life.
Thank you, lithium.
Thank you, lithium, and the Zoloft and the Zyprexa. I don't know.
Drugs.
We don't know. Because that's the thing with this, is that it's a total crapshoot. Like, it could be that the Zoloft has got to a therapeutic level finally. Like, we just don't know until I start going off one of them.
Meds are so wild.
Yeah. So, and again, I just want to say, I'm so lucky that we found the right thing, because there are a lot of people that go through life picking and choosing and trying lots of different stuff because they can't find what works.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that I am, how grateful I am.
Me too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been on the same SSRI. The first thing I tried worked, and I was like, hey, I don't want to cry all the time anymore.
Yeah.
So, and that was good enough. Good enough.
And my friend, she was talking about being on antidepressants, and her prescriber said, you don't have to live like this. And I think that's the thing that I've come away with, like, oh God, I don't have to live like that. Like, I don't have to live with this anxiety and it going. And I'd always been someone that was like, no, my anxiety is very situational, which it was. If I could work out which part of me was speaking and which part of me was needing attention, then I would navigate my way through it. So I didn't feel like I needed medication. But the quadruple whammy of motherhood, like Roger says, the anxiety, or the OCD and the anxiety were there. It was the postpartum were already there, but the postpartum made it worse. Because I now look back on all my anxiety crises, and Roger was like, oh, absolutely 100% circular, and what I've figured out recently with the help of my latest psychiatrist, I've had 4 psychiatrists in as many weeks.
I love a team. Thanks, team.
Oh, 100%. Is that they're all around things that I am punishing myself for in some way. And that's been a light bulb moment of like, oh yeah. So yeah, I was in the hospital for a week. And that was towards the end of the meds. It's weird. The ward would look like if you were anxious, it was like hell on earth. You felt like you were in a prison.
No.
If the lithium was in, I was like, oh, this is just a dorm. It's just a dorm room,
Slumber party.
Yeah.
No.
So
it's a retreat spot.
I know. Well, Roger calls it my vacation.
My mental vacation.
I know. I don't know. A couple of people have been like, just, you know, you had some time away, you had a break. I was like, no, it's not. I was grappling with my very existence.
I saw her.
I was like, no, it was not. That's actually how one person that I'd spoken to in my search to find help, it was like, I was talking about hospital. She's like, well, why don't you go to hospital? Just go and have a couple of days off.
Oh, like, my word.
So yeah.
It's wild to me. Wait, people just aren't informed. And even to this day, mental illness is still such a mystery to most people, myself included. And it's treated with, you went to the hospital?
Yeah.
You know, and...
Yeah. And this is part of the reason why I wanted to talk to you all about it, just to round everything off. So yeah, I got out of hospital, and like I said, I'm in an intensive outpatient program. So 3 hours a day, 3 days a week. Auntie Allie comes over to look after baby girl.
I'm Mary Poppins.
It's the best. And so to be able to walk out of my program and have my friend here, and then we can record this episode, was so good.
I love it.
So yeah, it's, you know, being on medication now has just been amazing. And because things that I would get anxious about before, now, like I had an incident with a friend where they weren't calling me back because, not for any reason, but just whatever reason, it didn't happen. And the old me would have gone, oh my God, that's because they were annoyed that I didn't go to their show. And then
down the spiral we go.
And now my brain goes, no, he's just busy.
Right.
I couldn't do that for myself before.
Oh, meds.
Or I would be sitting on the floor playing with my daughter and going, I'm playing with her wrong. And I remember the first time I did it, I was like, oh, there's no voice in my head telling me I'm playing with my daughter wrong. Like, what? But before we go, I just want to talk through some of the symptoms and of PMADs, so that if you are out there and you are experiencing this, please do not hesitate. Please get help. Like I said, the words of advice that were given to me, if you even think about doing anything to yourself, go to hospital. I am someone who found the help at hospital. They will then probably put you into a program like an IOP or a PHP, so an intensive outpatient program, or a partial hospitalization program. So just please get help. The other thing is they do not last. That's the other takeaway. PMADs do not last. Some people experience them for a really long time. Like Brooke Shields, it was 2 years. And when I was going through it, when I heard that, I'd be like, what? But
no.
Some people it's a year, but it passes. So just please get help.
Getting help is the best thing.
The Motherhood Center are fantastic. They do really great work, and they, like I said, they have a nursery you can take your kid in, and and this is the information that I'm using today is from one of their handouts that they gave us. Cool. So these are symptoms of mood-based PMAD, so depression, bipolar disorder, and psychosis, because that's another thing is postpartum psychosis is the thing. And Roger and I agree, like if we'd left it any longer to go to hospital, I absolutely would have gone into a psychotic state, like without doubt. Okay, so changes in sleep and appetite, significant increases or decreases from your regular sleep and appetite, including waking up in the middle of the night often or not being able to fall and stay asleep. And the anxiety disorders, which are general anxiety, panic, OCD, and PTSD, those are in common. They both have that. Feeling slowed down physically or feeling heavy and low energy even after getting rest, sleep, or self-care activities. So this is in the mood depression column. Feeling a lack of interest in or disconnected from baby, which I cannot even imagine how excruciating that would be, because at least I did have a connection to my daughter.
Right.
Sadness, tearfulness, apathy, anger, irritability, and or agitation, difficulty concentrating. A loss of interest or pleasure in things you usually enjoy. Feelings of guilt, shame, worthlessness, hopelessness, or helplessness, which I had that. Scary, intrusive thoughts or images about harm coming to the baby can also be about you or partner. Difficulty concentrating, disorganized thinking. Thoughts of harming yourself, including thoughts of running away, disappearing, or wanting to escape. That's an interesting one. Sometimes it wasn't that I wanted to kill myself. It was just that I wanted to go away.
Right.
Which was weird. And that's like when they're like, when you were wanting to run, where would you run to? I was like, nowhere. I just wanted to be away from the car.
Wow.
Increased energy after very little sleep, increased amount and pace of talking, more goal-directed behavior or starting projects, rapid mood swings, hearing or seeing things that are not there, believing things that are odd, eccentric, like messages are being communicated to you through objects or signs, paranoia or suspiciousness of others. So one thing, I don't know if you're this way, but I like seeing little signs in the universe but I will say the way that the universe kept sending me signs that everything was going to be okay. The amount of animal wildlife Mum and I saw on our walks, we saw baby deer, we saw a freaking groundhog, we saw swans on the Hudson.
Swans on the Hudson.
We saw, there was another animal, butterflies are a thing for me. I love seeing butterflies out. But the one that as I was talking about my darkest thoughts to my therapist, this balloon comes floating up through the Manhattan skyline in her window. And I was like, okay, I kept seeing, and then my daughter had this really beautiful cardigan that I loved that had been given to her, and I had lost it. And I took her to the local library. They have this really cute lap sit story time.
Oh.
So I take her every Wednesday, and the teacher goes, "Oh, I found this cardigan on the street. Is this anyone's?" And
you're
I'm
like, "Oh."
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like, just all these little signs are out there. All right. So these are the symptoms for anxiety. They're more anxiety-based disorders, as we discussed, the changes in sleep. Physical symptoms like dizziness, heart palpitation, sweating, jitteriness, chest tightness, and nausea. Yep, had that. Feeling afraid to hold your baby or fearful of letting others care for your baby. Checking on the baby frequently in the middle of the night. Motherhood and or bonding with the baby is something you feel worried about doing right. Yep. Feeling that something bad is going to happen. Sense of doom. Yep. Daily or constant worry about safety and or the changes in your life. Not able to be reassured. Yep. Frequent worry thoughts, perhaps a faster pace of thinking, feeling like you can't turn your brain off. Yep. Scary, intrusive thoughts or images about harm coming to the baby. Well, they have that in common. Obsessions, repetitive thoughts or mental images about self or baby related to health, safety most often, i.e. contamination or injury. That wasn't it, but yes. Repetitive thoughts. Compulsions often accompany obsessions and are intended to reduce the fears, anxiety, obsession, i.e. Googling, seeking reassurance from a loved one. Yep. Washing baby items excessively. That wasn't it. The gold standard of treatment is a combination of therapy and medication. PMADs are treatable, and takes time. However, concrete support and increased regular sleep are also a vital part of getting better. So those are just the facts about them that I wanted to put out there for you all. If you're going through it, I am just reach out.
Yeah.
Email us, cormacandgwen@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Get in touch on Instagram, Cormac and Gwen.
Even if you think you're exaggerating, or even if you're not. You're not.
Even if you feel it. Also, your obstetrician will have links to some resources as well.
Yes.
I'm gonna put a couple that were amazing for me in the notes, and but just know you're not alone.
Not at all.
And
we're here, and our weird stories about murder songs.
And we're gonna get. Well, do you know what I was thinking?
I was worried. I was like, do you still want to do the podcast?
Oh, 100%. But do you know, actually, as you know, one of the things that contributed in that first round of anxiety was my story of the Lawson family. Because I was like, how could I have done a story
and
like
of
that?
course, my anxiety, I go, it's my fault.
Never.
I did this.
It's never your fault.
So reach out, take your meds if you're prescribed them,
and we will go back to your regularly scheduled
murder ballads
stuff very soon.
But yeah, I just want to stress that there's no shame in being treated for mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
There's no shame in admitting you have it.
Yeah.
It's like saying you've broken your arm. Yeah. You wouldn't walk around with a broken arm just being like, I'm ashamed. Yeah. I don't want to admit that my arm's off my like dangling around. There's no shame in it. You're not a bad person.
And I think what's wonderful about our generation is that I think the mental health and therapy have been unstigmatized. For our parents' generation, it was such a kind of like, you're crazy if you go to the shrink.
And it was so horrible the way they treated mental illness back then. So thank goodness leaps and bounds are being made in mental illness treatment and the stigma of it.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in admitting that you're having a hard time.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to tell my story, and I wanted to tell you all the details, because
that's amazing.
And thanks, friend.
You're the bravest.
Thanks.
And it's not easy.
Yeah.
And I saw what you were going through, and I think you're a hero.
Oh,
you really are.
You're so beautiful.
And to admit, that you needed help, I'm so glad you did. And I know you're one of the most proactive people I know. And I admire that about you. And you're the first person to react and fix things. She's like the most responsible person in the world, I think. For me. When I think of a responsible person, Amelia shows up in my dictionary in my head. So that's how wild mental illness is, because the most responsible person in my dictionary in my brain thinks she's unfit to be a mother. I was like, that was wild to me. And I was like, this is real.
Yeah, it's so hard because it robs you of, and for someone like me that I thought I would have kids made earlier than this. I always knew I wanted to be a mother. Like I said, that first 5 weeks, I felt this calm, and I felt this amazing, like I healed really quickly. And then it was like my greatest desire became my greatest fear. And it was the cruelest form of torture for me, and especially having this perfect, wonderful child who has literally stayed asleep throughout our entire podcast so we can do it.
She's amazing.
Yeah. So, it's...
Thanks, darling.
Yeah, she's just the best.
She really is. It can happen to the best of us.
Yeah.
It can happen to the absolute best of us. Reach out. Get help.
Yeah.
Even if you think you're overreacting, it's better to get help.
Yeah.
Than to be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I needed help 2 months ago, Yeah. Anyway. You're such a wonderful person, and
you are,
I'm sorry this happened to you, and I'm so happy that you are finding relief and working and being positive, even though it was really important for me to share it with you all, but I have to say it was Roger's idea to do it on the podcast. Roger's amazing.
I am going to take a moment here to sing the praises of my husband, who was absolutely extraordinary throughout this entire thing. May you all find someone to love you the way that my husband showed me he loves me, and stuck by me and was there for me and took care of our daughter. And I will never, ever, ever be able to put into words how truly extraordinary he is.
We get it. He's amazing. Quit bragging. No, he really is incredible.
And my wonderful parents who, you know, my mum, who I can't imagine watching your child go through that, what that was like, and who was just with me, even though I kept trying to push her away in a lot of ways. And my beautiful dad, who has been on his own journey, but who was the absolute perfect person for me to have at that stage.
And makes amazing chai.
Oh yeah, it does make an amazing chai. And who and with whom I could talk about this stuff and could really help me turn around and look at it. And which is one of the ways that you get through it, is you've got to turn around and look at it. And he really guided me and played dominoes with me at the hospital.
Playing dominoes at the hospital.
But I was one thing in the ward. I really felt for a few people that didn't have visitors. I had visitors every day. Every day, every session, there was someone to see me. I think it was maybe the first one, and Dad had said, "Do you want me there in the evenings as well?" And I said, "Yeah." So I had someone every session, which was incredible. Cool. So, and thank you all. I would have been
there more, but I had a colonoscopy, which we'll be covering in the next episode. No. I'm kidding.
Oh my God. So what do we take from this? Oh God.
Oh, friends, you gotta laugh, because
you do have to laugh.
You have to laugh.
That's why I say, like, in my pathetic attempt, because I kind of think it's funny that I'm like, oh, it's too hurty.
Owie.
Owie.
Oh, irony.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, you gotta laugh.
Yep.
Especially during the hard times.
Oh, you know what I did? Do take walks down by the river. Because because that's where I walk every day. Because you gotta get outside and get that fresh air.
Debatable.
Do take walks by the river during the day.
Take walks by the river with someone you trust. Wait.
Do take walks.
Okay.
Only in that set of circumstances.
All right. Yeah. All right. Just make sure somebody knows where you are.
Yep. Yeah. Truth.
Oh, my friend. You're wonderful.
Yeah.
And I love you.
I love you.
And I'm so glad you're feeling better.
Me too.
Damn.
That was some dark shit.
Okay.
Do we do a thing?
Oh yeah. Well, make sure you take your meds.
Take your meds.
Find some help. Get into therapy if you need it.
Only walk down by the river if you're...
Only walk down by the river for therapeutic reasons, and someone knows where you are, and you maybe have a tracking device on you. And especially if you find yourself in some dark holler, get some help. We love you. Bye.
Bye.